What is the future of Israel? What will be her next chapters as the region changes dramatically, with the United States and Israel seeking to decisively defeat Iran and the terror groups it sponsors in Lebanon, Gaza, and Yemen? Who will the Lord raise up to be the next leaders of these nations and of Israel itself? Hello, and welcome to Inside the Epicenter with Joel Rosenberg, a podcast of the Joshua Fund. We are a ministry to bless Israel and her neighbors in the name of Jesus. I'm Lynn Rosenberg, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today as we join Joel in the coastal city of Tel Aviv, where just this week he got to spend an hour interviewing former and possibly future Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett. In only 6 months, there'll be an election here in Israel, and Naftali Bennett is running. Here in this interview with Joel, he talks about both his analysis of the current war and his vision for Israel's future as he runs for the office of Prime Minister. Let's take a walk along the coast of Israel and listen in.
Great to be with you. Thanks. This is an interesting time, right? I mean, we're here. At the moment, we've got a ceasefire with the Iranian regime. We've got a ceasefire in Lebanon with Hezbollah. Let's get to that in a moment. Your assessment of the war. But I got to ask you first. Everybody wants to know. You're running. You're running in 26, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I am. I'm running, and my intent is to win, become Israel's next prime minister, unite Israel, and then bring in the best era Israel has ever seen of growth, of security, and of unity. It's going to be an Israeli renaissance.
Well, let's talk about that, because I want to talk about your vision. But I also want to start with last week on the show was your old political ally turned maybe nemesis, I don't know, Amichai Shikli. Good man, I like him, but it was interesting because I asked him, so the premise of the next campaign, I mean, October 7th was the worst disaster in the history of the Jews since the Holocaust. Prime Minister Netanyahu was in the chair, right? And it's not like he was new to the job, right? Doing this for 30 years. So I asked Shikli, do you think the Israeli population, the public, is going to punish Netanyahu for that? Or is he going to reward him that we fought so bravely and made a lot of success? Now, his view was, we've done things that no one would ever do. Yes, there's more to be done, but it's going to be a huge victory for Netanyahu and his coalition. Obviously, you don't think so. What's your analysis?
The Israeli public is going to be asked one big question. Who can fix Israel? Who can lead Israel? Who can unite Israel? And we're going to have to go through really a renaissance of rebuilding Israel. And, Netanyahu has done good things, has done less good things. It's been 30 years. So I'm not going to attack him. I'm just going to say the Israeli people are looking to the future, not asking backward. Is he to blame? How much responsibility, and all of that? They're going to ask, how do we build a better future? And they're looking for the younger generation that will unite Israel. And in that sense, I think we're going to look at a big victory for change and for growth.
All right, well, let me press you one more point on that, because everybody knows that if you know Netanyahu, and you obviously do, you know that Winston Churchill is his great hero, warning the world, warning the West of the Nazis before anybody got it, and then building an alliance with the United States to defeat the Nazis, right? So hasn't he become Winston Churchill?
Look, I don't want to attack Netanyahu. I will just say that Winston Churchill did not feed the Nazis with $360 million a year during the 30s.
You're talking about the payments that he authorized from Iran, from Qatar to Hamas.
The big mistake of the past 20 years is there was a policy of feeding the monster, because we had a monster building up in Lebanon and in Hamas, and instead of neutralizing it and removing it when it was small, every time they threatened, the government caved in and paid the money, allowed them to grow to such a huge threat where we were surrounded. And that is really the main responsibility of the previous governments led by Mr. Netanyahu. But I have to say that over the past 2.5 years, the Israeli people, when the Israeli government collapsed on October 7th, the Israeli people rose like a lion because thousands of young Israeli men and women rode down to the kibbutzim and to the cities there and saved lives. Some of them lost their lives, heroes. And then when the world sort of wrote Israel off and said, we're no longer strong, we're no longer clever, we showed during the past 2.5 years that we're strong, we're persevering, and we're as clever as ever. So I don't want to say by any stretch of imagination that we've not achieved. We've achieved a lot. We've hit Iran badly, hit Hezbollah, hit Hamas. Yes, Hamas still is there and growing. Hezbollah is there, Iran is there. So there's work to be done in the next governments. But all of this can be achieved only if we unite Israel from within and rebuild Israel.
We'll take a break here and come back in just a moment with a continuing conversation with Naftali Bennett. We'll be right back. Our passage for today is 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and a quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. Will you join us and pray for the leaders and the future leaders of Israel, the United States, and the countries of the Epicenter, that God would bless these nations with godly and wise leadership? Pray for victory against Iran's evil regime and the freedom of the Iranian people. And pray that God will strengthen His church in the Epicenter. They are the hope of the world.
I've heard you give interviews talk about, like, yes, Israel's had to fight hard and there's more to be done, but essentially the next, you're positioning yourself as the builder of a new and a better Israel, right? So I do want to say one thing, though. I actually expected you to say a moment ago, when I asked you about Churchill, I expected you to say, well, Churchill won the war and then
That's
lost
also
the election.
true.
You didn't say that, but anyway.
That's true.
Anyway.
Attlee won. And what happened there is the British public wanted to open a new page and rebuild Britain after the war. The Israeli public wants to open a new page. There were so many mistakes that led to this war, like accepting Hezbollah and Hamas on our borders, the whole containment strategy,
But do you
and then domestic internal fighting. People are fed up with that. They want a better Israel, better education, stronger economy, strong high-tech, and stop all the internal fighting and recruit the Haredim, bring them into the army.
Ultra-religious
That's
who
right.
are avoiding military service. Well, I got to ask you one more question before we shift to, I'm realizing, to your vision, and that is, do you bear any responsibility on the Qatari cash transfers to Hamas? You did serve in Netanyahu's cabinet, multiple positions, including as defense minister. So how do you deal with people saying, well, no, but you're as complicit as he was?
Well, actually, I inherited a system where every month they brought in $30 million in cash in suitcases. This is almost unbelievable. I stopped that. I said no more suitcases of cash going to Hamas. I am willing that the Gaza population, poor families, will get $100 prepaid cards. So we converted that money into prepaid cards, which we could monitor, and went to buying food. I'm okay with that. But I stopped the cash transfers to Hamas.
That could have used for building weapons.
It was used for building weapons, for building tunnels. Just unbelievable policy in real time and certainly now.
Are you satisfied with where we are now in terms of the massive damage done to the Iranian offensive military capabilities, obviously to the regime itself and to Hezbollah and Hamas? Are you do you feel good about where we are as Americans and as Israelis?
Well, I think this operation, the joint Israeli-American air operation...
Because it is historic, really.
What?
It is historic.
It's historic. It's important. We pushed back the nuclear program. I don't know exactly how much. The ballistic missiles. And we showed that we will act on Iranian soil. You know, for years I'd been talking to you about the octopus doctrine, which said we should not only be fighting the arms of the octopus, but go for the head. And that's what we did. So that was a vital move and a very successful one. We need to see it through. We need to ensure that all the enriched uranium is taken out. We need zero enrichment forever, no sunset. We need to stop the ballistic missile production and stop the octopus of terror. So as to the final results, we'll see where it goes over the next few days.
Yeah. So that really is the pivot, because whatever happens, even if all the fighting stopped today, like, I mean, it is stopped today, but I mean, if we're at the end of military operations and President Trump is pushing everybody on diplomacy, you know, good. We're in a world in which can you imagine calling yourself the supreme leader? I mean, you know, the so-called supreme leader, he's now seen his supreme leader, and I think he's burning in hell. I mean, I have no doubt. But they're gone. Like, the Iranian regime that you and I were talking about over the years, it effectively is gone. Hezbollah is radically degraded, if not quite broken, and Hamas is just hanging on by a thread. So you are describing, as I hear you in interviews and discussions, we're heading into a very different Middle East than we've had for our entire lives, yours and mine. So what opportunities does that grant you? What are you beginning to say to Israelis and to Americans and to others in the region and around the world? What's possible, and how does Naftali Bennett make that a reality?
Well, first of all,
we'll talk domestically. Let's start regionally.
But a moment before we talk about the domestic issues, on defense, we have to also be very open-eyed and not put ourselves in illusions like in the past. We've achieved amazing achievements, but Hamas is there and growing. There are 30,000 Hamas warriors growing by the day and rearming. We have to know
but they're not battle-hardened. They're living on tunnels.
I understand.
But
the days of writing off our enemies as weak, those days are over. I take every threat seriously. So we've got Hamas. We've got Hezbollah, who's also rearming and producing missiles. We've got Iran, who obviously is going to rebuild. So I don't want to say by any way that the threats are over. But in order to deal with these threats, and I'm looking not only over the next months, but also years and decades, we need a strong, robust, united Israel. So basically, my vision for Israel is a very strong foundation, strong economy, strong military, strong society. And on it, we have to become a light upon nations. We have to be what we need to be, what our mission, our raison d'etre is. Be strong, do good. And here I see immense opportunity. So I would envision, on my first week as Prime Minister, going out to the Emirates and to Egypt and inviting them and rebuilding the regional relationship.
The Emirates have done extremely well.
They've been amazing.
They've had almost twice as many missiles and drones as we have, and I didn't know. I mean, I love them. I've spent time with Mohammed bin Zayed. I mean, you have too, but you were a prime minister, and I'm not. I didn't know they had the capabilities to shoot down 95% of what was getting shot at them. We just never seen that in action before. It's been very impressive.
Yeah, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, what we call MBZ, he's an amazing leader.
He is.
He's an amazing leader for his
innovator.
People, and he's strong, he's tough, and he did not cave in, and that's the sort of allies that we want. And I really like that guy. And we're going to do amazing things together. But it's going to be way beyond that. I'm talking about the Saudis. I'm talking about Indonesia. I'm talking about India.
Do you think Lebanon will come into a peace treaty?
When we neutralize and dismantle Hezbollah. Okay. Here's the rule of thumb. You can't build peace, or you can't have a tree of peace grow on soil of terror. So Likewise in Gaza, we have to defeat Hamas, and it's doable. Now, I'm not going to give a timeline. This is going to be my problem in a few months, and we're going to have to use a mix of tools, but we cannot no longer let these monsters grow and grow on our borders. We're going to turn into the world's, one of the world's leaders in AI, in quantum mechanics and quantum computing, in biomedicine. Israel's going to be the place everyone wants to come to. We have the best technologies in so many areas. Now, you know, my pet project was the laser defense project.
Right.
So everyone's knocking on our doors wanting to buy the
meaning
laser.
instead of firing a $50,000 rocket to knock out
Iron Dome.
another rocket, now it's, I don't know, 50 cents, $1, $5,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
$10.
$10 for a beam of lasers. I mean, literally, it's Star Wars.
Star
effectively.
Wars.
What people
Yeah,
used
my
to
vision,
laugh
by
at
the
Ronald
way,
Reagan.
is full-blown Star Wars. Right
So
now,
that a laser can shoot a missile out of the sky.
first of all, that works.
That's
it's
amazing.
working. It can shoot a missile. It can shoot a drone. It can shoot down rockets and mortars. It's done it.
Wow.
But that's only the first layer. That's the ground layer. Then we're going to have.
And now the U.S. wants to buy it. And develop it.
But we're also going to have in outer space, right? Out in space, we're going to have lasers that can neutralize intercontinental ballistic missiles out of atmosphere because there's a vacuum there, so the laser beam remains strong.
Yeah.
We're going to do amazing things, but in medicine and in AI and all of that, Israel's going to be, you know, I would call it the solution nation. We're going to bring solutions to the world's biggest problems while being strong.
Well, that sure was interesting to take a walk with Joel and Naftali Bennett and listen in on their conversation about Israel today and Israel tomorrow. We know who holds all of time in his hands, and that is the Lord God. His plans can't be thwarted. His love never ends. Will you join the Joshua Fund and participate in what God is doing in the Middle East? We would love for you to stand with us as we seek to strengthen the church in the Epicenter. Pray about joining us as Epicenter allies. Those are monthly givers. We love when we have monthly givers so that we can count on you for now and into the long haul. It's such a blessing to know that we can count on that kind of support because there are so many opportunities, so many needs, and we are excited to see what God is doing. We hope that you found this podcast episode interesting and informative and that you'll share it with your friends. And we hope that you'll come next time and listen to our next episode of Inside the Epicenter. For now, shalom from Israel.
I'm Joel Rosenberg. On your left, you'll find some videos we've chosen specifically for you. We look forward to partnering with you to bless Israel and her neighbors in the name of Jesus.